So it's 9 o'clock and I call this meeting to order. Deputy Clerk, are we live streams up? Just for everyone's information, Mayor Junkins joining us via Zoom or iPhone or whatever. He's up in Whitehorse, I believe he is today. So anyway, with his absence, I am running this particular meeting. And to commence the meeting, can you please stand if able for playing of the national anthem performed by the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. And I'd like to welcome council, staff, the residents in the gallery, and the viewing public to this meeting. I'd like to turn it over to Councillor Eckert for the reading of the land recognition statement.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that their great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendships of Indigenous people.
Thank you, Councillor. Now with the approval of the agenda has had a number of amendments, so bear with us as we work through all these amendments. We do have a motion from Councillor Niznik that the agenda be amended to include a notice of motion by Deputy Mayor Wink, move staff report 10.1.7 after item 5, include an item of new business by Councillor Niznik, add a closed session item under section 2392FF advice is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and reorder the agenda to move item 12 new business following the in-camera session. And I believe Councillor Eckert has seconded that motion. So any discussion regarding the changes to the amendment or to the agenda? Seeing none, could we have a vote to accept the amended agenda? All in favor, seeing unanimous consent, no dissenters. And I will now turn it over to Councillor Olson disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Does anyone have anything to declare? Seeing none, we move on to a motion Councillor Olson would like to put forward. Councillor Olson, would you speak to that, please? For the Pelham Panthers? For the Pelham Panthers, you wanted to put a motion to allow them to have a delegation?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, what I'd like to put a motion forward because the ownership of Pelham Panthers is present here. I'd like to put a motion forward to suspend the rules to allow them to address council.
So thank you for that. Just so everyone's aware, we do need 2/3 majority since this is being added to the agenda at last minute. Do we have a seconder to Councillor Olson's motion? Councillor Hildebrand, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor.
Looks like the mayor could have some comments there.
Could I see hands on that again, please? All in favor? Okay, all in favor, so that carries. And we will allow the presentation of the Pelham Panthers Junior Hockey Club at this point. Just a reminder that you have the floor for 5 minutes for your presentation. And just to note that this is a presentation by the Junior Hockey Club. This is not set up as a debate. So please come forward. Tim? Do you want to hit your mic, please? Hit the button. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thanks for having us here and letting us speak today. I'm joined by my partner, Wes, and his daughter, Emily. First of all,
No, you were on.
You had it. Press the bar again, please. There we go.
Okay, awesome, thank you. First of all, what I'd like to do more than anything else is open up discussion with you guys so you guys can ask any questions of us that you guys may have. I think it's important that everybody understands the function of a junior hockey team in the town of Pelham.
Just don't touch it.
What we try to do, and how we're involved in the community and want to be even more of an integral part in the community. That's our number one goal and mission, is to be great community partners and enhance the environment for Pelham residents in this community. Just one small example of some of the stuff we do, and not a lot of people may know about it, but during COVID, our particular hockey team was on the ice more than any other team in Canada. We actually ran a program with the help of Pelham and the ability to have the kids on the ice. And with that, we had several kids during that time that played for us advance. And we take great pride in that, knowing that we can help kids develop to the next level. One individual, Florian Jacki, he's from Hamilton, but he played for us for 2 years as a 16-year-old and as a 17-year-old, and was never drafted to the OHL, but went on a walk-on to the Hamilton Bulldogs, made the hockey team, and after 1 year with them, was drafted 101st overall to the Montreal Canadiens. So that's just a little bit about what we try to do and what we strive to do for young people, here. And we bring them into the community, and they're a big part of it. They're a big part of minor hockey and beating the minor hockey kids. Last year we had an incredible year with the involvement with a lot of our players and minor hockey teams, to the point where a lot of the kids still communicate with many of the young minor hockey players here in the community, going out to lunches, going out to dinners, meeting them, ball hockey, a lot of activities. So, those are just a few of the really important things. But hopefully you guys have some questions for us. We're glad to fill you in, answer anything that you have about who we are, what we do, what we try to do here in the community, and what our needs are as well. So thank you for the moment of time, and hopefully, we can answer some questions for you guys.
So I'm going to turn to the clerk on this one. Would it be appropriate to present 10.1.7 at this time, and then that may bring out further questions?
Mr. Chair, through you, so since we have a delegation and council has authorized that, if council members have any questions of the delegate before we bring forward the report, that would probably be appropriate. Once we bring forward the report, then the delegation is not part of the discussion.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So, council, do you have any questions of Mr. Toffolo at this point? Sure. Councilor Nisning.
Good morning, Mr. Toffolo. Thank you for coming today. Just know that, I'm certainly a big proponent of development of hockey players, and having a junior B team in town is certainly what our town and I believe most of our council members want. So we definitely want you here. With the new lease agreement coming forward, we hope that it'll meet your satisfaction and you'll be able to, live within the terms that we're setting out fairly. I guess just my only question is when and maybe that's for the things. So just can you give us a little more detail on ways you do support the community in a little bit more detail? And that will help us with exactly what you do. I know you do stuff, but if you could just go a little more detail, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, since we came to Pelham, we've tried to run many events to support the community. We always participate when we can, if we're not playing on that day in the Santa Claus Parade. We have had numerous years where we've been at Summerfest, supporting the community. We've also looked for several years into different ways that we can be more involved into fundraising. Myself, I've sat on committees. I sat on the advisory committee to build the arena originally. Was the chair of the user group committee. So we've done a lot of stuff as far as that goes, but a lot of it goes back to being involved with kids in minor hockey and having our kids and coaches be role models for those kids, giving those kids an opportunity to aspire. We're in the business of creating better young men and women for the community and for the future. That's the business that we're in. We do not run hockey operations for profit. We run this hockey operation to give back, and to give back in any ways we can. We do give back with food drives that we run during our games in different times. We've had our kids go out and collect food during the Pelham Cares food drives. I mean, I guess the list is really, really long, but we'll do whatever. I mean, and if there's ever anything that council members or staff members think that we can help out with, we're always going to try to do that, if we can. We this year through the recreation department, we ran a ball hockey event for the kids, which was a great success and a great turnout. Zach Ronaldo, who played 11 years in the NHL, is now our head coach, and he was there for that. So, having a lot of the coaches in the community for Pelham minor hockey, which is something that we hope we can really have something take off where Zach can help with a mentorship program with the coaches. And some of our players can obviously, be great mentors to many of the hockey players, the young hockey players that aspire to, no matter what they're playing or what sport they're doing. So that's a lot of the things that we do and that we want to continue to do and do even better.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Tim, for being here today with Wes and Em. I guess I didn't have the button for it, so there we are, Tim. But I was saying thank you for being here, and I've been a lifelong hockey fan. I think I bleed the red and white of the Detroit Red Wings, and I hope someday that Toronto will have a professional team too. But I'm pleased to hear you say that, and I know you are part of the community, and our community is like a fabric, and you're part of the group that our service clubs who do an excellent job, and Pelham Cares, and you all work together to put the community forward all the time. And I'm looking forward to this season with a new coach and a refreshed look at how things can be done. The young people you deal with are models for a lot of our youth, so I think that's important. And you're definitely part of the KPMG report that we received. That was one of that supported the activities of the team, and you're also part of our master plan that we just approved for the recreation in the town. So that's one of the couple of the things I'm looking forward to and seeing from you going forward. But it's funny, when you attend the games on a Sunday afternoon, which is a convenient time for me, 2:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday is a pretty nice time. And you come down here and there's a lot of people who don't go away in the winter and who come over here from the local houses and the new apartment buildings and things. They come over here and that's their entertainment, and we usually sit up in the lounge there between periods, and this is their entertainment, and I think it'd be a shame to lose out on something like that. Now, I'm pretty sure that a team like yours would probably be attractive to other communities, because let's face it, there's empty spaces in different communities around here, and I think we're privileged in having you as a guest here and part of our community, because this is look at all the successful communities in across Canada, and drawing on past experience in Sweden. They all had a really good hockey team, and they all had a university or a community college close by, and it was all part of the same things. And I think this is your integral part of the community, and I'm hoping that we can come to a successful agreement that's fair to everybody, and I believe we can. I'm looking forward to something longer than a 3-year contract, because I think it's a partnership, and I hope it's not aggravated by small things, because small things become unfair and they become emotional, and that's how partnerships break down. And partnerships are probably the most difficult form of an enterprise to keep going. So I hope we work together, or we can work together to be successful partners together. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Eckert.
I feel obliged to comment after yesterday's passing of the great Toronto Maple Leaf Bob Bond, who scored the overtime winner on a broken leg to defeat the Detroit Red Wings in overtime. I would be remiss not to rebut Councillor Olson's statements. And just to say thank you very much for attending today and making your presentation. Thank you.
So I thank you for those comments, and I'm sure Mayor Junkin would have said the exact same thing had he put his hand up quicker. So Councillor Olson, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just to say that there was a bad penalty called by referee Glenn Scove, then that's why they got the shorthanded goal. So that's the only reason I can say.
Let it go. Counselor, or Mayor Junkin, do you have any comments to make?
Yeah, can you hear me, Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, excellent, great. No, again, just thanks, Tim, for showing up this morning. Great to see you and your partner there. I also I look forward to a longer relationship with you and the team. I know that I've seen your guys out at many community events, and I'm hoping that we can indeed come to an agreement where everybody's happy with it. I know that I won't get into the financials. I guess we'll do that when we talk about the report. So again, thanks for coming and explaining a little bit more of what you do in the community, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other comments? Counselor Hildebrand?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Tim and Wes and Emily, for showing up this morning. I appreciate your presentation, and you and I talk hockey a lot because I've been around hockey a lot of my life. During the discussion on our motion, you'll see a lot of questions from me to the staff, and don't take that as negative, but that's positive because I'm interested in making sure the agreement is a good agreement and I understand all the details. I'm a detailed type guy. That's my background. I like to know what all the details are. I spend considerable amount of time trying to learn and making sure things are right. And I've learned also that even though we pass some motions and do some things, sometimes we don't always get them right. And hopefully we have enough of an understanding that we can get together and sort those kind of details out in the future. Thanks again, Tim, Wes, and Emily.
So I'll just throw in my 2 cents. Tim, I really appreciate you coming before council today. I appreciate everything that the Pelham Panthers do for our community. You highlighted a number of items that shows how committed you and your team are to this community, and it's now it's upon us as council to prove that we're committed to the Pelham Panthers also. So thank you so much for coming. And any other questions? So I'll turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I do have a motion and I have an amendment as well. So if council will indulge me, I'll read the motion as circulated and then the amendment, which will be dealt with first. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Eckhart, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that council receive report 2023-183 MCC draft license agreements, Pelham Panther Hockey Club Limited and Pelham Junior Hockey Club for information, and that council authorizes and directs staff to enter into a license agreement with Pelham Panthers Hockey Club Limited, which agreement shall be in the form satisfactory to the town solicitor and substantially the same form as the draft license agreement attached hereto, and that council authorize and direct staff to enter into a license agreement with Pelham Junior Hockey Club for concession and vending machine operations at the Meridian Community Center, which agreement shall be in a form satisfactory to the town solicitor and substantially the same as the draft attachments attached hereto, and that if either Pelham Panthers Hockey Club Limited or Pelham Junior Hockey Club requests substantive revisions to the draft agreements attached hereto, that council approves a 60-day extension of the existing licensing agreements to permit finalization of the draft agreements and council approval of the same. So that's the motion as circulated. I have a motion moved by Councillor Hildebrand, and we'll need a seconder for this amendment, that the motion be amended to strike the word substantially in paragraph 2 and 3 and strike the word substantive from paragraph 4. So a seconder, Mr. Chair, to discuss the amendment.
Councillor Niznik, thank you.
So that amendment is now on the floor for council's discussion.
Any discussions? So, yes, Councillor Hildebrand.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wink. Yes, I'd like to preface my discussion with the fact that the town's cost of operation for the hockey club are all related to this agreement by revenue generated by ice rentals. This, in my view, is the critical area of the agreement. In summary, I've summarized for myself, based on the draft agreement that we have in front of us, the major points. It's a 3-year agreement in this draft agreement. The premise is clearly defined and what's included. Each year, 70 hours of primetime ice time is included for September the 1st to the 31st of March. Summer ice time is 3 weeks, August.
So excuse me, Counselor, I believe that you're debating the amendment at this point in time, so.
Oh,
Just about the changes to the
Oh, you're-
counselors. We have to deal with that first, sorry.
all right.
Okay, so could we have a vote on whether or not we accept the amendment? All those in favor? Those opposed? To the amendment?
The amendment meaning to strike the word substantially? Is that what the amendment is?
Yes.
Should there be
Yes.
conversation about
Yes.
that though first?
Yes.
Okay, so could we, sorry, may I speak?
Yeah.
So through you, just a question for Councillor Hildebrand. The purpose for striking that word, could you explain that?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. I found out over the last couple of weeks that our professional qualifications add significant details to simple words that were not part of my definition of a word in the past. And I actually had a lot of discussion about different words because substantially is an adverb to a greater significant extent, for the most part essentially. And substantive is an adjective dealing with real, important, or serious matters. And the problem I have is not necessarily with the words, but the interpretation of the words. So I guess at this point, I would ask staff and the director the question with regards to what is a non-substantive revision in your view?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Through you to Councillor Hildebrand. The resolution has been worded in this way deliberately to provide staff the opportunity to negotiate minor revisions with the agreement, with the licensees, pardon me, on the agreement without the need to come back before council. So for instance, an example of a non-substantive amendment might be 2 additional hours of ice time, or perhaps a slight change in the ice time entitlements or requirements. So those are the types of things that could be not, they're not significantly, or as you've said, essentially different. They're not substantially different than what is in the draft. And so that's why the substantially the same language is there. And then in terms of substantive amendments, as is set out in the staff report, the proposed revisions have not yet been canvassed with the licensees from whom we've heard this morning. And so in the event that they want to request more significant or central amendments, for instance, the length of the contract term or something of that nature, those are the kinds of things that, in my submission, would require council input and approval. So for that reason, we've requested the 60-day extension of the existing agreements, if necessary, to give us time to negotiate more substantive, as you've indicated, important, serious amendments with the licensees and bring them back to council for finalization and approval. So that's why the resolution is worded as it is, and what we sort of envision as being substantially the same and substantively different.
Yes. The reason for my questioning, thank you, Ms. Certain, was the fact I want to make absolutely sure that we're clear on the definition of those words and that we don't run offside with each other. And council, for instance, myself, has a different view of what those 2 words mean. So if we're in agreement of what those words mean, I have no qualms about leaving those words in the agreement. Thank you.
So let me understand, Councillor Hildebrand, you're withdrawing the amendment then?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Seconder agree?
I agree to withdraw that then.
Thank you. Do we need a vote on that, or?
No, is withdrawn with council's permission, so that's fine. So we'll move back to the main motion that's been entered in, and council now has that on the floor for discussion.
Okay, so any comments or discussion with respect to the motion presented? Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was wondering, we're now speaking about the proposed agreements, I guess, with the Pelham Panthers and the Pelham Junior Hockey Team, which is on, I think it's page 4. Is that what we're talking about now? Which calls for a 3-year agreement. Is that what we're speaking about?
That's correct.
Okay, yes, there's several things that I can't agree to in this, in the proposed agreement here. First of all is the 3-year agreement. You know, when you look at the things that are negotiable here, only one of them is the term. The other ones are these, the license fees, which I'll speak to in a moment. And then the rates that we use for ice rentals, I can't agree with ice rentals being at adult rate. I much prefer them to be at a rate, I think there's probably a youth rate or something like that, an intermediate rate that's for practices and that type of thing. So I would be forced to vote against most of the motion. Because the only part I agree with really is the part of the 60 days to negotiate. So I would probably have to be asking to split the motion up because, you know, there are several things that I can't see the team and then the team changing things that they have right now. When I look at the agreement we have in the comparatives, our team would probably not have would probably be somewhere disadvantaged to other teams in the area. So I think this building was built for a junior team, and it was there's a lot of people. It's working the way it's supposed to, and I want to see it continue. I don't think there's going to be any takers for the concession stand. At least it's going to take us at least 8 or 9 months. I don't think we would have a concession stand for this winter if we were to go, if our agreement with the team fails. So that's what I would have to do. I have to ask I would be voting against this proposed agreement, and I'd be voting in favor of the 60 days to come up with an agreement with the team that meets everybody's needs. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Obviously, Councillor Olson and I have different views of the situation. I am in agreement with the draft agreement for both the concession and the hockey team. The 3-year agreement, I think, is critical because it gives us an opportunity as councillors to take a second look at where we're going. We can extend the agreement at any time, in my view. So that's a non-issue. And I think because we're all basically new on dealing with the agreement with the hockey club, I think it's pertinent for us to come up with a solution for today, and I think the draft agreement does that. And for the continuation of our term, the last part of our term basically is 3 years from now, that will give us, as councillors, another look at it to review with the hockey club and staff as well, the agreement. So I think in general, the draft agreement that we have in front of us, I will totally approve. Thank you.
So Councillor Niznik.
Yes, thank you. Overall, I think the agreement is a good one that you've brought back to us. Much improved from the first one, which allows for the incremental license fee increases. The 3-year agreement I am in favor of, as I'll echo Councillor Hildebrand's words there. My only concern is I know the old agreement did have the 2 different rates, one for practices and one for games. I would be more comfortable if that was returned to this agreement rather than them paying the adult rate for all ice rentals. That's a significant increase in cost to the team. Most junior B teams, from my experience and history, run on a very, very tight budget and often lose money throughout the season. So we don't want that happening because we don't want them to fold. So if that would assist there, I could make a suggestion that that be changed back to adult versus adult and, sorry, I guess I can't make any changes.
Yes, so,
Other than that, that's fine.
yeah, so I'd like to turn it over to the director to make comment on that.
If I may jump in just briefly, I can advise through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Niznik and also to Councillor Olson. Unfortunately, the staff report indicates adult rate, which is in error. The agreement itself does contemplate the youth rate for practice ice. So that's in, which is the existing entitlement. So I apologize for the error, and it is in paragraph subsection 5.3 of the draft agreement, where it does specifically contemplate the youth rate for practice ice.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other comments then, Councillor Niznik?
This is just the ice part, not the concession part, or are we talking concession as well?
Both are on the floor.
Okay, thank you. So just with regards to the concession, is there any consideration, or could there be any consideration for some daytime hour opening? I know we have our Pelham Seniors Advisory Council looking to bring more seniors into the MMCC and wishing that there were some services there, whether even if it's just, on a small scale, or whether they would consider subletting it or loaning that facility to us in that area during daytime hours when it would not impede with the Pelham hockey. I don't know how that would work or if that's possible, but that's just another consideration. And it may not even be doable for this contract, but maybe in the future, moving down the road, that we could consider that or have a conversation with the team about that. Other than that, I can support this then, knowing that they're going to have those ice rates.
So I'd like to turn that over to Ms. Van Ravensway to make comment on the concessions.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, the concession, and I know exactly where Ms. Councillor Niznik is going with this, with the Seniors Committee. We do have an agreement with Mr. Toffolo that if the facility is not the busiest and it isn't beneficial for him to open during a long period of time, we do supply coffee and goodies, and that is part of our Senior Active Living Center grants that we can cover that. And during our negotiations, we can talk about additional daytime hours. I do want to note that during our camps, we have 100 kids in here on a daily basis, and throughout the summer, the concession does supply lunches. So if there's opportunities where, if the seniors are having an event, and I also believe that during our seniors fair, we've had the concession supply all of the lunches. So we do have a good working agreement with the Mr. Toffolo that he will supply when required. As well, as you know, just so that we do have a coffee pot out here in the servery area. Every morning, staff puts out a coffee pot, and it's pay as you go for the seniors and non-seniors that use the walking track. And many times you'll see many people using the area, watching the TVs and enjoying a coffee with friends that they've met here. And that typical agreement has been with Mr. Toffolo, as it really isn't beneficial for him to come in, pay someone to open for, 5 coffees or whatever.
That's fair. Thank you through that. I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Great. Councillor Olson. Okay, Councillor Eckert.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. While I don't believe that it is the town's responsibility to subsidize the hockey team, it is also true that I'm sure the ownership isn't raking in millions of dollars and getting rich running this hockey team in town. So if there's an agreement that we can come to that is mutually beneficial to both parties, then that's what we should do. And I agree with the proposal on the floor. And I like the idea of 3 years, especially piggybacking on Councillor Hildebrandt's comments. That allows this council to look at this agreement prior to the end of this council to see if perhaps there's changes that need to be made or an extension granted into the future. So, and I know I've had conversation with Councillor Kerr about this, and speaking for him, he was more in favor of a 2-year agreement, but had no problems with the 3-year if that was council's wishes, because again, for the same reasons, it brings it back before us before the end of our term. So I would be in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eckert. Councillor Olson?
Yes, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. You know, we're seeking a solution here, and the operation is not broken. I think we have a competent professional staff who can negotiate this, and I still believe that a 5-year agreement is a demonstration of faith between partners, and I would prefer actually a 10-year, because when you go before a league, and this is a franchise, if you go to a league and say we have a long-term agreement with the town, that means a lot more to the league that this team belongs to than having 3-year agreements that we keep on negotiating all the time. To me, would be a symbol of instability. Thank you.
Mayor Junkin, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to thank the Councillor Hildebrand for drawing that amendment. I have complete faith in our staff and the negotiations that if during any course, and not just the hockey team, but when council gives staff leeway, it has always been understood that the leeway is spelled out, but at the same time the leeway is there, and I'm sure that even without that amendment, that staff realize that any big changes, they would certainly have brought that to council's attention. I guess obviously this is still subject to tweaking, I believe. That's why we indeed have that leeway for the negotiations. I know that Tim has told me on numerous occasions that if anyone ever wanted to look at his books, he would be more than happy to show them. So I'm just, and anybody again that thinks that the hockey club is making undue profits on the whether it be the concessions or with the team themselves, I know Tim has offered to open his books up and say, here you go, take a look. We are not making, we are not in this game for the money. So I appreciate Tim making that offer, and I look forward to if there are indeed negotiations on tweaking a few of the items, then that's great. And obviously, if it has to come back to council for any bigger tweaks, then I look forward to. I expect staff to bring it to us if that is the case. But overall, yes, I know what Tim must feel like when he goes, as Councillor Olson stated, when he goes to the league. I have no doubt that they would rather see a franchise with the longer the term, the better. Means that franchise has got a stable future. Again, I definitely would agree not to go to the 2. I can live with 3, but if it ever had to go to 5, I can live with that too. But I'll leave that up to staff and and Tim to if they do indeed have to tweak the details. like Councilor Nesnek, I'm very happy that we went back to the two-tier ice cost. It's like I say, we are developing young players, young people, and yeah, we just can't squeeze it. We've got to give them some leeway and give them the opportunity to not have to charge their people top dollar just because we need top dollar for ice that is probably going to be sitting empty in the middle of the day anyway. Anyway, thank you very much. Back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Now I'd like to put my 2 cents in and just a couple of questions to the Director of Recreation, Culture, and Wellness in the agreement. It indicates the town will not remove ice from Accipiter Arena until team finishes playoffs. And I know there's always been conflicts in the past. If the team does well, that will conflict with the Kinsman home show. So how do we resolve those conflicts?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is true. It would affect our home show, although, as we know, the home show is capable of operating in the Dulaban Arena. They do have 2 layouts that they have in their hand, and as long as they are able to, to know which pad that they will be using ahead of time, they will sell accordingly.
So how much notice do you have to give the Kinsmen?
The Kinsmen, once the Kinsmen realize that this is now officially in the agreement, they will have to plan accordingly, that option 1, and also they will look at the standings, obviously, would be, they would have to use the Dulaban Arena, and option 2 would be the Accipiter. We've only had 1 case that the team has required for, to go into April, and that was during COVID when they extended the season.
Okay, thank you. And my other comment or question, just a point of clarification, if attendance is 500 or more, the town receives 50% of admission fees. I assume that that's 50% of fees or 50% in excess of the 500 attendance, not just, not for the whole shot, anything over and above. Can you clarify that for me?
Actually, that might be an area that we could have more clarification, because I'm sure that both of us are thinking 2 different things. We also have never had that opportunity to use that section of the agreement, but hopefully we will someday. So we will look at that section when we are updating the agreement.
Yeah, so just looking on behalf of the hockey club, they'd rather have 499 people show up than 501 people show up and have to split half the fees. So I think there's some massaging on that one. Okay, any other comments at this point? Yes, Councilor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. The notion of the two rates, that's a big change for me in looking at this. So I will take water with my wine and support the 3-year reluctantly, but I will do that when we vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So any further comments from council at this point? Seeing none, we turn to the vote.
Yeah, so we do have the motion on the floor as circulated. It's now for council's vote.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion? Seeing you. Thank you, Mayor. Seeing unanimous consent, we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now, resuming our regularly scheduled program, we'll move to agenda item number 6, the adoption of council minutes. I have a motion moved by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. C-14/2023, regular council meetings of July 26, 2023. To you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councillor Olson?
Mr. Mayor, I was not intended, and I was not in attendance at that meeting, so I
So-
probably shouldn't move and I shouldn't vote, so thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for bringing that forward. Any additions or deletions to the minutes of the last meeting? Seeing none, for the vote, all in favor? Okay, and none opposed, so that carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So now moving on to item number 7. So again, if council has items on the consent agenda that they'd like to lift for separate consideration or separate resolutions, we should identify them now. If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
So does anyone have anything to lift? Councillor Olson?
I would like to lift item 10.1.5.
So that's not part of the consent agenda.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Anyone want to lift 8.1 or 8.2? Seeing none, if anyone would like to make comment on those? Yes, Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. This is to the Director of Public Works. With regards to 8.1.1, Consolidated Linear Infrastructure Environmental Compliance. This, in my view, is a significant cost increase with very little cost recovery up front, according to the report Council has received. When water quality at Walkerton in 2010 issue occurred in the province, I would imagine the policy and procedure development costs had to exceed $50,000 for this municipality alone. Not sure who paid this, but my guess it was a municipality, because obviously the cost of these kind of changes, although they seem insignificant when the province issues a directive, the cost to the municipality is huge, because you've got to hire someone, or someone has to develop the policies and procedures before you can even get to the operation part, which is another cost. In my view, here we go again. Sanitary, stormwater, and water mains. Those are the areas this thing is addressing. That, to me, involves consultants, staff, and then more staff operating time. When we looked at 2024, to me, it looks like the budgets for every area are going to be an issue in terms of, because fees from development, building permits, and the like are just not happening any longer to the extent they were in the past years. So basically, I'd like your comments on my comments with regard to this is, how are we going to recover these costs? Or is this just going to be another item on the budget list that we're going to be addressing at council during budget time? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, or Deputy Mayor. So I'll leave the planning comments and the number of submissions in for approvals to the Director of Planning. But I will speak on, to answer some of your questions, and I'll try to do it in a concise manner. The drinking water quality management system, the way we operate right now is we don't have any internal staff that manage that administratively. We subcontract that out to a consultant. So that contract is an ongoing annual contract with a consultant that does the administration part for our DWQMS. Now, obviously, management and our supervisor of water, wastewater, and staff are involved in the process, but the day-to-day administration of that is subcontracted out. So this is going to be something very similar to that when it comes to the the wastewater and the stormwater management. Traditionally, any approvals that would be required through the ministry would either be passed through to the ministry directly for major type projects, or for minor type storm sewer and sanitary sewer projects, there was a transfer of review that was passed to the region, and the region would complete that review and give the approvals on behalf of the municipality. So this new legislation is basically downloading all that responsibility onto the municipality. The idea is that it'll speed up the development process and approval process. Traditionally, complicated submissions could take up to 12 months to get a response back, and they're looking at condensing that down to four weeks or a month. So that's the whole driving force behind this, and definitely it will pass on more responsibilities and duties to the municipality, specifically the engineering department, and to a slighter, I guess, also the planning department would see some increased workload there. But we're still working through the beginning phase of this, and the idea of this report was to get it in front of council as an information report, let you know what's coming. We still don't know the full details, what the impacts are going to be. We are including for some capital budget spend on producing some sanitary and stormwater maintenance manuals, similar to what we have for our water system. Those, I think, will, moving forward into this next year, they're due by the end of 2024. So we'll need to have those in place, and we're looking at probably bringing a consultant on board to help us develop those plans. And so there will be some capital expenditure up front, and then for the administration of that and the approvals based on the number of applications we get, still we're trying to work through that and how the best way to tackle that is. Obviously, there's going to be more resources required by the department, and how that's distributed, whether it's through a consultant or whether it's bringing that work in-house, then that's something we're still looking at. We don't have the answer to that yet, but that'll be coming in a future report to council.
Thank you for that. But the question I really want to ask is, obviously, you've gone through the water quality issue and developed policies and procedures. So can you quantify what did that cost us relative to get that program running for this municipality? Just in general terms, are we talking $10,000, $50,000, $100,000?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So I wasn't here for the development of that. My understanding was that initial contract to set up that maintenance manual with all the procedures in place was about $60,000 for the water itself. Currently, we also, like I said, for the water side of things, we hire a consultant that does our administration of that, and that's about a $25,000 to $30,000 spend a year.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because what concerned me was the extent and this impact that this will have on our budget going forward this coming year. I mean, those are large numbers. Thank you.
Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. To the director, the ECA, does that apply to green infrastructure as well as our gray infrastructure?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, or Deputy Mayor. Yes, so it'll include all sanitary and stormwater management systems. So gray infrastructure with pipes in the ground, that would be something that we have to have a plan for, maintenance manuals for, and report back on those, give approvals for developments. Also, with respect to the greener side of things would be obviously stormwater management ponds. It would include naturalized channelized ditches, as well as roadside ditches would all be incorporated as part of that stormwater management plan. And also any type of LID, low impact development type features, those, if it handles stormwater, then that would be part of the plan and the items.
Thank you. I'm in favor of anything that moves the decision-making close to the point of action. And this will cut down on the time it takes to do things. Is there an opportunity here to do more digitalization of our processes here and through the asset management system again?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, yes, there will be opportunity for digitizing. Obviously, any stormwater management facility we have, any pipe in the ground is an asset to the town. Those are being recorded as part of our asset management plan. And those will be digitized using the GIS system, and we'll be able to monitor those. They'll log up annual inspections that we do. That'll all be incorporated into the asset management plan and the GIS system so that we can look at that as well from a digital perspective.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask you about we've got the stormwater management pond report. I believe that's imminent. Will that be part of our considerations in this as well?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, so we are currently undertaking a study of our stormwater management ponds, every pond that the municipality has under its control. That report, the consultant's still working on it. They're actually completing now the bathymetric surveys of the ponds to see what the condition of the level of silt is in each of those ponds. We're expecting that report to come back to us in September, October of this year, and then we'll be following up with a report to council. That'll give an overall condition of our stormwater management facilities. And that report will help us develop ongoing future maintenance responsibilities with those ponds. And then obviously that feeds into this, our operation and maintenance plans for our stormwater management facilities.
Okay, thank you. And finally, I would imagine that temperature would be prominent in those studies as well. I mentioned silt, but temperature would be something to be considered, considering the 12 Mile Creek.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So yes, temperature is a concern, especially with any stormwater management facility that feeds into the headwaters of the 12 Mile Creek. An example of that is the stormwater management pond at Rice Road and Highway 20. It has temperature control and cooling systems built into that pond. For that particular pond, we actually do monitor right now as part of the ECA agreement when we built that. We do maintain annual readings on that so we can report back, and I have reported through a previous report to council on that, but we can provide that information. And I believe as we move forward, any stormwater management facility that's going to store water with increasing temperatures that we're seeing, obviously there will be concern for discharging that water back in the environment at a normal rate and temperature. So my guess is this report will also come back with respect to each one of those ponds and what our requirements are under the ECA regulations and how we control temperature and discharge. And if there's more monitoring required as part of that, I expect there will be, then that's what we'll be doing as well.
And a final comment, I see in your report that there is opportunity for cost recovery. I guess it's not fleshed out, but at this time and finalized, but I believe our staff, they're able to find dollars where they don't seem to be any dollars, so I'll be looking forward to some kind of a statement of cost recovery. Councillor Hildebrand is right, we need to make sure that any of these things that come down to us, we have to be paid for, so, thank you.
Mr. Cribbs, you look like you've got your hand ready to hit the button. Do you want to make some comment?
I do, but we also seem to have largely wrapped it up.
Okay. So stay tuned for further reports. Okay, and any comments with respect to 8.2.1? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Niznik and seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items listed on the August 16th, 2023 council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. To you for the vote.
Okay, so all those in favor? None opposed? So carried.
Thank you. Now moving to staff reports. I have a motion moved by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Eckhart. Be it resolved that council receive report 2023-0142 for information, and that council approve the non-compensation policy S600-30 as amended. To you for discussion, Mr. Chair.
So any discussion with respect to this motion? Yes, Councillor Niznik?
Yes, I just wonder if we could have a conversation about 10.1.2, the professional training.
No, we're dealing with 10.1.1 at this
Oh, I
point.
apologize.
Okay. Any other comments? I would like to make one comment to Ms. Langor. I appreciate in the policy that you highlighted the changes to the policy. I find that very much to the benefit of council knowing exactly what's changed, and I would encourage going forward that any policy changes are highlighted for each department. So it makes it far, far easier for council to understand what's happening. So thank you for that. Okay.
If there are no more questions, we could move to the vote then on 10.1.1.
So all those in favor? None opposed, so that's carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Moving now to 10.1.2, I have a motion moved by Councillor Eckhart and seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that council will receive report 2023-0123 for information, and that council approve the professional training and educational financial assistance policy S600-18 as amended. To you for discussion and vote.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to council. Anyone have any questions or comments? So Councillor Niznik?
Yes, thank you very much. So applauding staff for having a review of this policy and bringing us up into the 2023 century. Thank you very much. Quite a difference from a $300 stipend or reimbursement for staff who are seeking to further their education through various institutions or training sessions. However, I'm comfortable with the first section of it, but 4.10 section, where folks who are attending or wanting to take courses either at a university or college and will come away with a degree. I feel that the $1,500 per course is quite a jump. And when I researched the cost of courses, that is about the entire cost of a course taken at a university. Colleges are about $1,200 per course. And I don't really feel that the town should be responsible for paying for the entire cost of a university or college course at this time. I feel that's too generous. I'm more comfortable with the 50% per course with a maximum of $3,000 per year and a $12,000 maximum. So, and then I'm just wondering, there is a statement in there that talks about the control of available tuition allocation funds. So I'm just not sure if a certain amount of funds are allocated each year. And once those funds are depleted, then the next person that comes along is no longer able to access any funds. I know that's how it was certainly in the education sector. And education sector certainly does not pay for the entire course for university further education costs. They do sometimes supplement course costs, but certainly not to that high degree. So I just would like to have see what other folks feel with regards to 4.10. Thank you.
So at this point, I'll turn it over to Ms. Langord to make a comment.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. It is staff's position that the policy presented before you today is within the realm of reasonable. The solicitor, the CAO, and myself did some extensive research on existing policies in the public sector. And so these numbers they are seen in numerous policies in the region and beyond. And the idea is that they are funding a good majority of the course. Again, that allows us to have a better educated staff who will stay longer, but also have that insurance that if they do decide to move on, that we are reimbursed for what we've committed to their professional development.
Thank you for that. Mr. CAO, I'm sure you have some comments on this.
I do. I think there are two important things. Firstly is it creates the insurance policy because frankly, there's no downside risk to the employer in that you either get paid back or you get a more talented staff member for a large number of years. So either way, that's a win. Many members of council will have lived through last terms. We had about a year and a half, better part of 2 years, where we lost a lot of talent to neighboring municipalities, frankly, that were paying more and or offering better employer supports. What's important in this report, the other piece, the other half of my answer, is that if you look in the financial implications, there are none. We're not actually asking for a penny. This money is limited and dollars are precious. But what happens is if there are staff savings in year, we have a vacancy, someone leaves, someone retires, whatever that happens to be, and the position's vacant for 2 or 3 months, half of those savings by corporate policy essentially go back into general operating, into a surplus, and half are put into a reserve that's used to support staff activity. So if or when there's money, adequate resources, and if or when there's adequate staff interest, keeping in mind that not everyone wants to go back to the hardship of part-time university study. That's a relatively rare creature. But the modern university costs are, or college costs are modern university and college costs. The bottom line is if the funds are available and if someone wants to apply, that is what it costs these days. When you look holistically at the town as an employer, we made it was an extremely difficult decision for the last council, and we moved to being the 55th percentile. That is our corporate target. That is all relative to other fair comparators. We have a dozen. We're trying to pay at the 55th percentile, which is above average, but also not an exceptionally high number. And this is another piece that helps create and engender loyalty to the staff and years of dedication, and helps us grow and helps our staff grow. So keeping in mind that this policy, we're not asking for a penny. There's no financial ask. And it helps us improve the capacity of our staff, and it helps with retention. I think it really has a lot to offer with no downside risk ultimately, because frankly, whether a diploma, a degree, or a certificate costs $500 or $5,000 or $10,000, if the person leaves, either their new employer is paying us back or they are. So that's the other piece. But really, if it helps retention, helps us keep a staff member for 6 or 7 or 8 years rather than 3 or 4, from where I sit, that would be well worth the money. Those are my comments. Thank you.
So thank you for both of you for that clarification. Councillor Olson?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think when I look at this, this is part of the whole system, I think, as Mr. Cribbs has said quite rightly, job evaluation, career advancement, and we do have some responsibility to the employees for their careers. I'm not saying that comes first, but the town benefits financially because turnover is awfully expensive and far exceeding what we have here. And we've experienced a lot of turnover, and thanks to our staff, we've been able to work through all these problems that we've had from turnover. I can recall that, we didn't, if we didn't have a staff that was able to do the work that they've done and advance themselves, we wouldn't have been able to do things like the soft skills that we have developed in the town, which are outstanding. How many times have I gone to a meeting and people will say, council doesn't know what they're doing, you guys don't know what you're doing, but I want to tell you that staff is really good. That's always the first thing that comes up. And the opportunity to learn the soft skills like how to deal with people and how to deal with problems and how to work with with, different points of view, I think is a really valuable thing. And I think that's the kind of soft skills that we contemplate looking at here. Professional skills, I mean, are an essential, but the other skills that can be learned here, like empathy, diversity, inclusion, they're all part of the things that become available when we offer something of this nature. So I'm in favor of the amounts, and I think our staff is, I think they're superior and outstanding, and so I'll leave it at that. And this is just another statement of another way we can support that and support the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Eckert, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My issue with limiting the amount of compensation down to 50% is I think it would significantly remove the incentive to embark on taking these courses and various certificates. It may also limit us in our ability to recover an amount or a significant amount if they decide to leave within a short period of time after receiving these funds. We're limited as a corporation in compensation that we can provide for our employees. We don't have a retention policy, for instance, and that would be a very expensive way to go to keep people. So I think this is an excellent way of providing benefits to our staff. It's a win for us. We keep them on board at relatively little cost to us. And it's a benefit to them because they enhance their own capabilities. So I would be in support of this.
Thank you, Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. One of the frustrations I see is with regards to how our staff obtain their professional qualifications. I can talk about two of them because I'm aware of them, and I tried to be an accountant once and determined I didn't want to add stuff. And during my day, we didn't have computers, so it was a terrible task. Could never get there. But what bothers me is to get a CA's designation, you number half schooling, and get a professional engineering designation, you have to do schooling, but then you have to get credited a certain number of hours. And if I take the CA program, for instance, right now, if you work for a bigger organization like the region, your hours are automatically credited, if I'm correct. Right now, if you're working for a smaller municipality like Pelham, you have to have your sponsor, and then you have to justify your qualifications as a CA. That's the way I'm seeing it. Professional engineers have done themselves a big disservice right now, and that they've discontinued the engineering and training program so that you start that right away when you get out of school. That to me made no sense whatsoever, because what it essentially means is, I'm not sure how it's working now, because I haven't spent enough time looking at it. But to me, that's a disservice for a young guy trying to get his professional engineer's designation. Because in the past, if you worked for an organization that had a professional engineer, you had to have one that had a professional engineer, he could be your sponsor, and you could qualify your number of hours you obtained that way. If you don't have the sponsor and don't have the place, you don't get it. That's the frustration I have, and I can see people and employees moving to get to those employers that provide that, and their organization provided. So I'm not blaming the organization, but I'm blaming the professional organizations for imposing those kind of restrictions on these people. That's just generally my comment. I don't know whether Brianna has more information on it, but she's probably far more up to date than I am, but that's the way I see it. Thank you.
Any other comments? So I'll just make a comment. I appreciate the fact that this has been brought forward. We went, as Mr. Cribbs pointed out, we went through a period of probably a year and a half, 2 years of losing very young, very key people that we weren't able to retain. And anything that we can do to help retention at the town, I'm fully in favor of. So I will be voting in favor of this motion. So without not seeing any further discussion, I'll turn it over to the clerk.
Yeah, I believe, Mr. Chair, we're ready now for the vote on 10.1.2.
Okay, so all those in favor of the report? Those opposed? So, sorry, Mayor, are you opposed to this or in favor of?
No, I'm sorry. I am definitely in favor of it. I didn't know if you could see my hand or not. That's why I was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's why I was out my vote. But
Okay.
anyway, yes, I'm definitely in favor of this. As you pointed out in the CAO, it's very painful when you hire someone and you think you have them for years, and then you lose them in 6 months or a year because there's more money down the road. So this is anything we can do to stem that flow outward is indeed worthwhile. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So with that vote, 5 in favor and 1 against, so that carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So now moving to item 10.1.3, we have a motion moved by Councillor Niznik and seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2023-0185, Proposed Policy for Donations to the Town of Pelham for Information, and that Council approve the proposed policy number S400-11, Donations to the Town of Pelham. To you for discussion, Mr. Chair.
So anyone have any discussion with respect to this motion? So seeing none, I'd like to put it to the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, so that carries. Thank you. At this time, it's probably an appropriate time to take a comfort break. I will point out that it's 5 minutes, and let's hold to 5 minutes and not let it bleed into 15 minutes. So we will reconvene in 5 minutes' time. So is live stream working? Thank you. Brings us to 10.1.4. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Niznik and seconded by Councillor Eckhart. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2023-0177, proposed replacement of the Town of Pelham sign bylaw for information, and that Council approve in principle the proposed sign regulations bylaw as presented, and that Council direct that the proposed bylaw be presented to Council for consideration at the next regular meeting of Council. To you for discussion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any councilors have any comments or questions with respect to this bylaw, draft bylaw? Seeing none, I guess, Chief, you're kind of off the hook on this one. So for the vote, all those in favor? And that's unanimous, so that carries. Thank you.
Moving now to item 10.1.5. I have a motion moved by Councillor Olson and seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2023-0182 Wellington Heights pedestrian crossing for information, and that Council directs staff to not proceed with the installation of a level 2 type B PXO crossing on Canberra Road at Wellington Heights School as approved in the 2023 capital budget under project number RD 10-23, and that Council directs staff to proceed with the repainting of the existing line markings and installing removable bollards along the road center line within the crosswalk, excluding the winter months of November to March, with projects charged to RD 10-23. Now, Mr. Chair, I do have an amendment to that motion, moved by Councillor Olson and seconded by Councillor Hildebrand, that the motion be amended to strike paragraph 3 and replace it with the following: and that Council directs staff to proceed with the repainting of the existing line markings and install removable bollards along the road center line within the crosswalk, excluding the winter months of November to March, and install a digitalized speed sign for westbound traffic on Canberra Road between Sandra Drive and the pedestrian crossing, approaching the pedestrian crossing, with projected costs being charged to RD 10-23. So discussion on the resolution, Mr. Chair?
So the resolution or the amendment?
Sorry, the amendment.
Yes. Did we have a mover on that?
Yes, moved by Councillor Olson and seconded by Councillor Hildebrand.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Olson, you've got some comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, in proper attribution, I would like to mention that Councillor Kerr proposed this to me on the telephone on Saturday, and we talked about it and agreed, because it's a dangerous part of our ward, and we want to make sure that that the coverage is beefed up. And I also want to thank Councillor Hildebrand for writing the amendment, because that's precisely what I wanted to say. That section of road, the speeds that some people come down that road, it's a straight shot into from Balfour Street into the center of town, and the speeds that people travel there sometimes they wouldn't be survivable by a pedestrian or a pet or a cyclist. They're just going too fast. I've had people tell me that they estimate the speeds are like 80 kilometers an hour when they come down that road, and they see that it's clear and they just want to go. So people have become so impatient, and I think this is an important part of what this council has been doing over the past term in improving the safety in our community, because there's a surprising number of trucks that go up and down these roads in our town. Most recently, we have the community safety zone that's been declared for Highway 20. And in our region, we were the third in all of Niagara region for the number of vehicles going up and down the road. We were only surpassed by how busy Lundy's Lane is and McLeod Road is. And then right behind it was Highway 20. And you go over there and you see that on a Friday afternoon from about 3 o'clock, and see the speed and listen to the noise. And I do that from the Legion. I'm careful to see everything that goes by the Legion. But this will be a step for safety for the town of Fenwick. The village needs this. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor Hildebrand, you seconded the motion, so comments?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd actually like to give credit to Councillor Kerr for writing this motion and Sarah for tweaking it to make it acceptable for council. So, yes, I think it's appropriate. On the west side of Fenwick, drivers proceeding eastbound on Canberra Road at the pedestrian crossing at St. Anne's School has a digitized speed sign on an existing pole, which benefits many people to identify the crossing and also identify how fast they're going. And I think it has a real effect on those vehicles traveling in that area. And that's exactly what we're proposing here for the Wellington Heights crossing. I think the staff have done a good job in identifying the issue with installing within the approved budgets, changing the resolution, which would result in a savings of $32,500. And I think the addition of the capital budget for a digitized speed sign, which last time we approved for Port Robinson Road, I think was around the area of $6,500, is well justified. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, any further comments? Councillor Eckhart?
Just to Director of Public Works, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, just work me through again how this ends up being cost neutral, what we're doing versus what we were planning on doing and had budgeted for. That's.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So originally, when we brought this to council, I think it was council's actually an action item that they had as part of the budget process was to look at some improvements for the pedestrian crossing at the Wellington Heights School on Canberra Road. The budget that was approved by council at that point in time was $50,000 for a type B, type 2, type B crossing, which was the pedestrian push button flashing lights with the overhead arms. When the region came out, when we made our application to the region and the region staff came out, they identified a number of constraints with putting one of those in. And in fact, they weren't in support of that type of installation at that crossing. So when you include all the civil works that would need to be completed, plus the signal itself, they estimated the cost to be somewhere around $100,000, maybe up to $120,000 capital cost. And obviously cost wasn't the reason for not wanting to move in that direction, but there's also a number of safety concerns that come up with the installation of that type of crossing. So one of the recommendations was to improve the current crossing with improved line marking, the installation of some flexible median bollards to reduce lane widths and help slow down traffic in those areas during the school periods. And then obviously this motion would bring forward a speed reduction sign. The original painting and improvements with the flexible bollards was estimated in the order of $17,000 of that $50,000. Speed, digital speed sign is about $6,000. So that would also, your savings wouldn't be $30,000, it would be a little bit less than that, but with the addition of the speed sign, but it can all fit within that capital budget that was approved by council.
Thank you. And just a comment, it's not only the crossing at Wellington Heights, but there's pedestrian crossings all throughout this town. And the ignorance of drivers who fail to adhere to the Highway Traffic Act, which states clearly that they are to yield to pedestrians in or about to enter into a crosswalk. And I'm speaking specifically about crosswalks that I see on a regular basis, Canberra and Haste, and the crosswalk across from where I live on Pancake Lane. The other day I was out in my front yard and I watched a young family come to that crosswalk, and 5 vehicles, 3 traveling east and 2 traveling west, never even slowed down on Pancake Lane, and they had to wait until there was sufficient time to cross. And that, to me, speaks to a complete lack of enforcement, and it's something that I bring up and will bring up again to the regional police. And there needs to be a traffic initiative, safety initiative in this town dealing specifically with speed and crosswalks. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Niznik.
Yes, thank you to Mr. Marr and his department for researching this and coming up with the costs. And it does look as though it was too complicated and prohibitive to put in the initial request that we made. So certainly I'll be supporting the amendment as written. Just a couple questions for Mr. Marr. Just with regards to, would the painting of the markings of the lines, is it possible to do the green and white, which is similar to what Glen A Green has now as well? What would the timeline be? Will these be done before September Labor Day weekend, I guess? You know, we're in the middle of August already, so just wondering if you would have a timeline on getting that completed for us. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, so with the green and white painting, that's something we can definitely look into. There are specified pavement markings for the different types of crossings, but my understanding, we did it on Port Robinson and Pelham Street, so I believe that there's an opportunity there to do some colorized markings to make it more visible, and we'll definitely take that as direction and look into that. With respect to timing, at the time of writing the report, in discussions with the region, this is something that we can do fairly quickly. The speed sign, indicator sign, obviously will take some time to get in. I believe the Port Robinson one was installed yesterday. Drove by it today, so it's up. So that's about the time frame that takes to get that in. So that may be a little after the start of school, but the idea is to get the signage and line markings done, completed prior to the start of school season.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. And Mayor Junkin, you've got your hand up, so floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a comment to the Director of Public Works. I'm glad that you're optimistic on the work being done quickly. I know that we've been falling behind on some of our painting, whether it be crosswalks or at the stoplights. They don't do the wide bands, whatever that's called. So, and the region had told us that they were behind in their painting, and that's why they were, why our painting was getting somewhat behind. So I'm just, I'm encouraged. I'm hoping that you're correct in your estimation that this will be done relatively quickly. And as when we have the painting crew in town, I trust that Public Works will direct them to any other street signage that needs to be painted. Thank you. That's my only comment.
Thank you, Mayor. To the Director.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So the mayor's correct in his statement. We actually don't have the region do the line marking for us at the moment. We tendered that out this year. So the line marking that you see that was completed, the center line and edge lines, those were a separate contractor that were in to do the main line stuff. The stop bars and crosswalks, they will be completed by a different contractor, and we're pushing to get them in the next week or two.
That's good news. Thank you. Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to the Mr. Marr. When I look at the sign, it says signage on the crosswalk in front of Wellington Heights. There's about 6 signs going each direction. Is there a standard for the heights of those signs? Because when I look at it, it appears like there's something for for somebody in a truck maybe, but not necessarily in a car. And I realize you can't put them down too low because they'd impede the sidewalk and things, but just wondering.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The standard height for those signs in accordance with OREG 402 for pedestrian crossovers is 1.5, a minimum of 1.5 meters high. That's the minimum mounting height. The ones we measured that we have on site right now, we measured between 1.6 and 1.7 from the ground surface. So they're within the guidelines. They could come down 4 to 6, 8 inches, but that's about it.
Okay, any other comments with respect to this motion? Seeing none, I'd like to put it to the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, so that carries.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So now we have a motion moved by Councillor Olson and seconded by Councillor Hildebrand to adopt the motion as amended. So hopefully there's no additional discussion. But if there is, this would be the time. Otherwise, we could vote on the amended motion.
Okay, any other comments for the amended motion? Seeing none, we'll put it to the vote. All in favor? No opposition, it so carries.
Thank you. Now moving to item 10.1.6, I have a motion moved by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2023-0183, Station Street Water Main Replacement Project for information, and that Council approve the award of the Station Street Water Main Replacement Project to DMAR Construction Incorporated in the amount of $356,694 plus applicable taxes, for a total project cost of $362,972. Then Council approve a budget increase of $187,972 for project WTR 04-21, funded through the reallocations of funds from project WTR 03-21. To you, Mr. Chair, for discussion and vote.
So any questions? So Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to the Director. It's just a general question with regards to the increase in cost. In '21, the cost of this project was $175,000, the budget. Now we're talking in '23, $356,000. That's a doubling of cost in 2 years' time. Is that what we're seeing on all our public works project of this nature?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. No, that's not typical. We're not seeing costs double. This estimate was completed most likely in 2019, 2020 for the budget preparations presented to council in as part of the 2021 capital budget. Prices have increased, materials, contracted services have gone up. This particular tender, we tendered it. We had four bids. They ranged from $350,000 to $820,000. So there's a lot of volatility with respect to the pricing on that project. It's a smaller contract, so you'd expect it to be a little higher. We checked the unit prices for the low bidder against projects we're completing presently, such as Pelham Street, and they seem to fall in line with the water main prices on those contracts. So we're comfortable that the budget that has been for the low bidder is basically in line with today's market conditions. But yeah, the 3 years that have passed since we probably did the initial estimate, it increased significantly.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Eckert.
Just a question to the Director, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. We have, you and I, over the years, or me in the past year, have received complaints from people living in that area about water quality. We've had to go down and flush out pipes and things like that. Is this project going to assist or alleviate some of those issues, or is this the first part of that?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we did replace the water main on Station Street from Port Robinson Road to Highway 20. This particular section from Highway 20 north to Hurricane is still the old cast iron. There was a couple tie-ins and connections made where there are some new sections of pipe with the development at the Fawn Hill Lumberyards. But in general, it's an old cast iron water main that needs to be repaired. It's been identified as part of the drinking water quality management system as an item. We've had breaks in the past. So yes, this work would improve the water quality, improve the level of service for that area.
Thank you.
So to be clear then, Director, we're responsible for bringing the new water lines along the road. It's still the residents' responsibility to take it from their property line into their home, which could still be cast iron.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, that's correct. So we're responsible for the supply of the water up to the property line. And there's a water valve there that's we're able to shut off or turn on. And then from that point to the residence itself is the homeowner's responsibility.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Mayor Junkin.
Yes, thank you. So I am now, I've had a couple minutes here to think and listen to everyone. So I'm kind of confused, and this is to the Director of Public Works. I believe it was, whether it be 2 or 3 years ago, you would know this. We had a local contractor, first name of Bill. I won't identify his company. So he was in there putting a water main in, I thought, and he did all the connections because we had some lead pipes in there and what have you, and we did all copper pipes. And his project was interfered with, delayed by the gas company wanting to put in a new gas line. But if I remember correctly, so Billy was there for I don't know how many months because of the gas company. So what was Bill doing there? I thought he put a new line in when he was there. Could you explain that, please?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to answer the mayor. Yes, so his contract, the contract that was in place was to replace the water main on Station Street from Highway 20 south to Port Robinson Road. So that was the portion of water main that was completed under that contract, as well as the services up to the property line for the residents and the buildings. This contract is on the other side of Highway 20, so from Highway 20 north to Hurricane. So this is the same age, vintage of water main. It's just that separate contract, and yes, it's an old cast iron water main that remains, and looking to replace it with new PVC.
Yes, thank you for that. Through you, Deputy Mayor, you're right. I remember now that obviously Billy didn't go on the north side, and that's where my confusion was. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favor of the motion? Unanimous, so that has carried.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So we have already dealt with 10.1.7. There is nothing listed for unfinished business. We do have an item that's been brought to our attention for new business, but we're moving that to follow the closed session of council. So we have a resolution now moved by Councillor Eckhart and seconded by Councillor Niznik. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public in order to consider a matter under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as follows. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction. We do have one thing under notice of motions, and that is something you, Mr. Chair, had brought to our attention. And I apologize for skipping over that. I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, thanks for ignoring me. So At the next meeting, I'm going to put a motion forward regarding traffic on North Hay Street, north of Brewerton. I know for a fact that every time I drive down there, I cringe because the sightlines are very, very poor. There are no sidewalks. It is part of the rural area. There are signs there that warn motorists that says, watch out for pedestrians, no sidewalks available. And it's a wordy sign, and it's in both directions. But, I think we can do something a little bit better in that area going forward to help. There are something like 15 kids that get on and off school buses in that small section, and speeding is ridiculous through there, and particularly speeding when you can't see what's coming up to you. So I'll be putting forward a motion to help alleviate the concerns there. Thank you. So now it's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So before moving to item 15, I just want to canvass council and make sure I haven't ignored or missed anything else before we move on. Seeing no other hurt feelings, I have a motion in front of me moved by Councillor Eckhart and seconded by Niznik. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public in order to consider a matter under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as follows. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees. This is consideration of appointments to advisory committees. D, labor relations or employee negotiations. We have one item related to QP 1287, and a closed session item under section F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including the communications necessary for that purpose. To you for a vote, Mr. Chair.
So a vote at this point? Okay, so could we have a vote to go in closed session? So all those in favor, so that's carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just give us a minute to shut off the live stream.